This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
(6:15 p.m.) This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Dilini Gunawardena, assisted by Sanjay, and read by Geethanjali Ramanayaka. The headlines. The preparations of the budget are currently underway. Bangladesh Speaker expresses hope that BIMSTEC and IORA will boost regional cooperation. The new British High Commissioner expresses commitment to further enhance UK-Sri Lanka ties. Applications are called for the Surcharge Appeals Committee. The UN Resident Coordinator calls on Minister Kanchana Wijayasekara. Foreign news, world leaders gather at the UN General Assembly. In sports, the Asian Games will commence this Saturday. News in detail. The budget report for the next year will be tabled at the Parliament during the first fortnight of November by President Ranil Wickremesinghe in his capacity as the Minister of Finance. The Director General of National Budget, Jude Nilukshan, said that the preliminary preparations of the budget report are currently underway. Speaker of Bangladesh Parliament, Shirin Sharmin Chowdhury, said upcoming BIMSTEC and IORA meetings will boost cooperation between the countries in the region. She referred to close cooperation between Bangladesh and Sri Lanka in international forums. She also emphasized the need for further expansion of people-to-people ties between the two countries. The speaker said this when she called on Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena at the Temple Trees today. She said Sri Lanka has tremendous potential to expand tourism, as she noticed that the required infrastructure is in place already. The Prime Minister discussed ways and means to further develop links between the Parliament of both countries and to implement a new program to exchange the experience of the parliamentary activities of the two countries. The Bangladesh speaker said such cooperation could strengthen best democratic parliamentary practices in the two countries. At the meeting, the Prime Minister said cooperation in pharmaceutical drugs manufacturing in Sri Lanka, as Bangladesh has expertise in the field. The proposed climate university, energy cooperation and South Asia through a common grid and potential for investments in information technology, education and tourism were also discussed. British High Commissioner Andrew Patrick called on Minister Nalin Fernando at the Ministry of Trade today to exchange views on development cooperation between Sri Lanka and the United Kingdom. The discussion between them especially focused on expansion of new export market in line with the trade scheme for the developing countries introduced by the UK. The High Commissioner expressed his firm commitment to assist the island in every possible way. Minister Fernando explained the plans of the government to implement new economic policies and reforms through actions such as granting permission to import electronic motor cars, establishment of 2 private medical colleges, and making laws to eliminate bribery and corruption. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Applications are called for the Surcharge Appeals Committee from persons with experience in the fields of auditing, law and public finance management, public administration and engineering to be considered for the appointment as members of the Surcharge Appeals Committee to hear and determine appeals of any person aggrieved by a decision referred above. Members of the National Audit Office and Sri Lanka State Audit Service are not eligible for the appointment as members of this committee. The applications should be prepared in accordance with the sample which is available on the Parliament website, that is www.parliament.lk, and the duly completed applications should be sent to Secretary-General to the Constitutional Council, Parliament of Sri Lanka, Sri Jayawardenepura Kotte, on or before the 9th of October 2023 by registered post or by email to constitutionalcouncil@parliament.lk. UN Resident Coordinator to Sri Lanka, Marc-Andre Franche, today called on Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara. During the meeting, a wide range of topics including government policies, plans on renewable energy, electricity sector reform structure, and financial assistance and green financing available for renewable energy were discussed between the two sides. In addition, implementing a mechanism to assist low-income families to set off electricity costs was also taken up for discussion. And that ends local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Veda Mahatmya.
A special Gazette notification has been issued declaring the supply of electricity and all related services, the supply or distribution of petroleum products and fuel, and health services as essential services. Acting Presidential Secretary Shandani Vijayawardena made the announcement on September 17th on the directives of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The announcement comes months after these services were declared essential services in a Gazette Extraordinary published on the 17th of May 2023. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Veda Mahatmya.
In Watchlight this evening, the National Building Research Organisation has issued the landslide early warnings to 2 district secretariat divisions of the Badulla district. Accordingly, Level 1 landslide early warnings have been issued to Haldamulla and Haputale divisional secretariat divisions. This warning is valid till 1 p.m. tomorrow. And that came to you in Watchlight.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
It's the power to live life your way. The power to be a trendsetter. Power to you with digital banking from Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank. Our interest is in you.
World News headlines. The world leaders gather at the UN General Assembly. Australian state suspends human rights law. And magnitude 4.8 earthquake rattles part of Italy. The 78th session of the UN General Assembly commenced in New York City with the participation of over 140 leaders and state representatives from around the world. It provides world leaders the opportunity to lay out their priorities for the coming year and urge cooperation on pressing issues. This year's general debate is being held under the theme Rebuilding Trust and Reigniting Global Solidarity, Accelerating Actions on the 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals towards Peace, Prosperity, Progress and Sustainability for All. The government of Australia's Queensland state has suspended its Human Rights Act for second time this year to be able to lock up more children. The ruling Labour Party last month pushed through a suite of legislation to allow under 18s to be detained indefinitely in police watch houses because changes to youth justice laws means there are no longer enough spaces in designated youth detention centres to house all those being put behind bars. The Human Rights Commissioner of the state described human rights protections in Australia as very fragile with no laws that apply nationwide. A 4.8 magnitude earthquake rattled parts of Tuscany early today. There were no immediate reports of damage or injuries. According to Italy's Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology, the quake's epicenter was northeast of Florence. The agency noted that the area is considered at high risk for quakes. Italy's fire rescue team said they received some calls from worried residents, but that to date, there were no damages or injuries reported. Back to the headlines of the world news. The world leaders gather at the UN General Assembly. Australian state suspends human rights law. And magnitude 4.8 earthquake rattles parts of Italy. And that ends world news.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
This message is for all the kids between the ages of 4 and 16 who love to draw. Commercial Bank's Arunalu Sittam is back once again. This time, the competition is also open to Sri Lankan kids currently living abroad. First, second and third place prizes will be awarded along with special merit and merit certificates. For more information, visit the Commercial Bank website. We have so many prizes to be won.
Development news.
Giving a major destination boost for tourism, Sri Lanka has been placed 13th out of 50 in the 50 best islands in the world for 2023 to visit for 2023 by global travel website Big 7 Travel. The website further says that friendly people, flavored food, endless beaches and timeless ruins are a few of the reasons that attract tourists. While Sri Lanka is placed between La Palma, Canary Islands, Spain, and São Jorge and the Azores Islands, Portugal, topping the list is the Bahamas, and that was development news. On to sports. The Sri Lankan squad taking part in the Asian Games leaves for China in phases. Beach volleyball, rowing and sailing teams have already left the country. Sri Lankan women's cricket team is yet to leave. Some of the athletes are currently taking part in the training session in China. The Asian Games will commence on Saturday, the 23rd. And that was sports news.
Go ekak tiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න. The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Empowering SMEs at the grassroots, Sri Lanka's leading private sector bank, HNB PLC, partnered Pay and Go to launch its groundbreaking POS system, offering businesses accessible and affordable payment solutions. Under the first phase of the initiative, HNB, together with Pay and Go, will roll out the terminals to SMEs in the western, southern and central provinces. Entrepreneurs will gain access to enterprise-grade advanced payments acceptance solutions, including bill payments, peer-to-peer transactions and QR code payments. And that was Business News.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak tiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න. The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news. The Secretary to the Minister of Urban Development and Housing, W.S. Satyananda, said 13 urgent proposals to overcome the recession in the construction industry have been handed over to President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Accordingly, this year's budget will introduce the necessary policies to uplift the construction industry. And that was economic news.
Weather report.
Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in the Galle and Matra districts. Several spells of showers will occur at the North Central Province and in the Kandy, Nuwara and Hambantota districts. Showers or thundershowers may occur at several places elsewhere over the island during the evening or night. Fairly heavy showers above 50 millimeters can be expected at some places in the western, Sabaragamuwa and Uwa provinces and in the Galle, Matra, Ampara and Batiklo districts. That was the report, and prior to concluding this news broadcast, the headlines once again. Preparations of the budget are currently underway. The Bangladesh speaker expresses hope that BIMSTEC and AURA will boost regional cooperation. The new British High Commissioner expresses commitment to further enhance UK-Sri Lanka ties. Applications are called for the Surcharge Appeals Committee. UN Resident Coordinator calls on Minister Kanchana Wijesekara. Foreign news, world leaders gather at the UN General Assembly. And sports, the Asian Games will commence this Saturday. And with that, we end this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.